Hello, Senator Leek. Thank you for joining me. We have the legislative session starting next week, 60 days. Not a lot of time, but it seems we've got a lot to do. What are some bills that you're trying to get through the session this year?
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me very much. I appreciate it. For me, I think we need to continue to work on property insurance in the state of Florida as well as auto insurance, but property insurance is going to be my primary focus this year. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that if you're going to be paying that kind of money to an insurance carrier, that you have your claims paid when you make claims. And so I've got some legislation coming through that will make the claims process expedited. You get a ruling from a judge that you have coverage within 60 days, and you get final determination within 180 days. But I think where we can really impact the consumer's experience is by making that claims process certain and expedited.
What bill number is that? Is that in filed yet or?
It's not been filed yet, but it's not, so it doesn't have a bill number yet. It's coming this week.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And have you had any feedback from your uh, constituents? What led to this bill in particular?
Well, as I look out at the property insurance market, the state of Florida is such a beautiful place to live. It is always going to be. You want to wait a minute? Sorry about the background there.
Yeah, it happens.
But as I look out at the property insurance market, we've done a lot to address the rates that are being charged by insurance carriers to consumers. And we've done some to address the consumer experience with claims. But we can always do more to address the consumer experience with claims. And so what I want to make sure doesn't happen is I want to make sure that our consumers who are paying all of this money to these carriers don't end up with good claims being denied or delayed, so that we can make sure that consumers get the relief that they need and that they thought that they were paying for.
Um, are you, I haven't seen it, what committees you're on, or do you think you're going to have any trouble getting that through the insurance committees or?
No, I mean, I don't. Every piece of legislation, has a fair shot of making it through. But keep in mind that typically you'll see about 3,000 bills filed in a year, and less than 300 make it across the finish line to the governor's desk. And so, is this going to be part of that 300 bills that make it across? We'll see what we can do, but I'm going to fight like hell for it.
What else do you have that you're really pushing for this session?
Yeah, so I have something it's known as the Jason Rayner Act, and it's very simple. It says that you may remember the story of Jason Rayner from Daytona Beach, but it's very simple. If you kill a cop in the performance of their duties, whether you intended to or not, you should go to jail for the rest of your life. And it's that simple. You can't kill cops in the state of Florida.
Yeah, that's a refile. That did not get through last year. But do you think you'll have a better luck now that you're in the Senate?
Yeah, I do. I do think we'll have better luck. And last year got hung up in the end there where it just didn't quite make it across the finish line. It wasn't my bill last year, but it is my bill this year in the Senate. And so I'm excited to push that one forward.
I noticed you have a couple animal cruelty bills, and I find that interesting, especially since Volusia County has been kind of one of the leaders in trying to crack down on animal cruelty. There was Ponch's Law. Um, what's is it lobbying from constituents that have really helped you, or you really got into being involved in this issue?
Well, I'm a dog lover, and remember, Ponce's Law was my bill in the House. It's one of the first
Okay.
I ever passed in the legislature. And so this is a natural continuation of Ponce's Law. And, in Ponce's Law, we said we're going to make it the criminally stiffer for people who commit this type of cruelty against animals. Now we're saying that not only are the penalties going to be stiffer, but we're also going to make it possible for adoption clinics and other people like that to see where somebody has been banned from owning a dog, so that we can make sure that those people who are committing this kind of animal cruelty don't just recirculate through the system, getting a new dog after new dog after new dog.
Yeah, and I know that there's been several counties that have tried to do that sort of directory. It's kind of like the sexual offense directory, where
And
you can.
it's different than that. This
Okay.
information doesn't require anyone to go out and register. This information already exists, so our clerk of courts is already collecting this information. All we're going to do is we're going to make it available through a link on the website of FDLE so that if you are an adoption clinic, you can go and click on it and you can see whether that person who's trying to adopt a dog in front of you is eligible to adopt a dog.
That, wow. Okay. That's pretty cool. Because it is sadly an issue. I noticed you've got some condominium bills here as well, and that is also a big issue, especially in Volusia County. If you could talk a bit about what you're working on there.
Yeah, I want to expand access to my homes, which I think is what you're talking about. And when I was in the House of Representatives, we made sure to fund My Safe Florida Homes. But what we're finding is that those programs that help people harden their homes against storm, and you got to think about it this way, we can't stop the storms, right? So we've got to be able to recover from the storms. Hardening your home and hardening your condo helps you recover from the storms. And another piece of legislation that I'm very excited about is, right now, if you voluntarily harden your home. So let's say you replace your roof, your tile roof with a metal roof. You as the homeowner get charged a penalty for the increased value that you're creating in your home by putting a new and better roof on. And I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So we have to go in constitutionally and we have to adjust Save Our Homes so that the homeowner gets the benefit of hardening their home.
Which bill is that? Is that filed yet?
That's a good question. I have 30 bills, so I don't know whether that one's been filed. We have until Friday actually to get bills into bill drafting and then until Tuesday to get them filed.
Okay. Is that different from the House? Or is it?
Yeah, we're looking for a House sponsor on that. I think we've found one, but that could end up coming in a big overall, home hardening package or what you do for consumers, consumer package. We'll see how that one works its way through. But to me, that's one of the most important ones. There's just simply no reason homeowners who voluntarily harden their homes against storms should be being penalized with an increased property value.
Speaking of My Safe Florida Home, do you know if there have been any plans to reappropriate that this year? I haven't seen any bills come out yet. Do you know if anybody's working on a bill?
Well, that'll be something that gets taken care of through the budget process. So you won't need an individual bill to do that until you get to the overall budget. And that process, of course, is very far off. It won't occur until the end of session, but I have every expectation that My Safe Florida Homes and My Safe Florida Condos will be funded.
It seems with that it was 200 million last year, 200 million the year before. We've had to keep putting money in. Is that something that maybe we're going to turn into a recurring uh, appropriation rather than having to re-up it all the time?
Yeah, I think it was 240 million last year, but the recurring, I don't know that I would put it in recurring simply because that means it goes on in perpetuity. And as condos and homes start to get hardened currently, then there should be less need for that money as we go forward, particularly as they start to come up to modern building standards. So there should come a time where the inventory of homes and condos that are subject to being hardened or subject to those programs becomes so few that you won't need to appropriate money for that.
How many of the bills that you're filing, I know this is your first year in the Senate, how many of the bills you're filing are bills that you yourself were like, oh yeah, I really want to do this? And how many of them are representatives coming up and lobbying you because they need that mirror bill and they're in, they need to have that in order to get their bill passed? How does that work?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the question. So that's a good question. Most of the bills that I file are my bills. They're like, but the animal cruelty bills. There's a woman named Debbie Dorino here in Volusia County who lobbied me very hard for Ponce's Law and continues to be a strong advocate for animal rights bills. And so that's not a bill that I came up with personally, but that's a bill that comes from a constituent. What I've always loved about Ponce's Law is it's exactly how the legislative process should work, right? We had an incident in Volusia County that was discovered by one of my constituents who brought the idea to the legislature. The legislature works the idea, it becomes law, and it ends up with the first time a governor has ever visited Ponce Inlet to sign a bill into legislation. So that's precisely how it should work. I love the story of Ponce's Law.
Yeah, no, the Ponce's Law is a great bill. It really is a great bill. And No, what I was talking about is how many state representatives have come to you and be like, hey, can you do me a solid and get this bill filed in the Senate? How much of that has been going on?
Well, that happens a lot because, the House members are limited to 7 bills. And in the Senate, because there are a third as many as you have in the House, you have an unlimited number of bill spots. And so, for instance, there's some good legislation coming out of St. Johns County that one of the St. Johns County state representatives needs some help with on the Senate, and I plan to help her out with that on the Senate. But that happens frequently. There's always a give and take, push and pull between the different chambers to help each other out. And if there's good legislation that originates out of the House, I'm always happy to take it on in the Senate.
Do you have any budget appropriation requests that you really want to see get in this session?
Yeah, I do. And the way that I work the budget process is as a senator, I have 4 counties. And so each county then has a number of municipalities, which means you have just a ton of inputs of people who are coming for budget requests. And so I take them and I put them all in a pot and we get them ready. And then at the end of the day, we sit down and we say, okay, what are your 3 top priorities? And we work through those 3 top priorities to help the counties and municipalities out. But the one that I'm particularly excited about this year is an appropriation request for the Black History Museum, which will be the first Black History Museum in the state of Florida, located in St. Johns County.
Yeah, that was one that it was a tough competition because Eatonville wanted it too.
Miami Gardens, a lot of folks, there's a lot of places that you could legitimately say would be a good place to house this, which is why we created the task force to determine where it should go and who should get it. And my recollection is that task force voted 3 different times to put that on the former site of Florida Memorial University. And what my legislation does around that is it puts the structure around it to make sure that everything's buttoned up the way it should be, and then we'll give it some funding as we go forward.
Is there anything else besides, I mean, obviously, condos, property insurance, big issues. Is there anything else you want to see the legislature tackle this session that they should tackle?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've been able to do in the state of Florida for the last 8 years, at least since I've been there, is, we were Doge before it had a cool name, right? The state legislature has been going through, and we've done everything from eliminate commissions and different little bodies, governmental bodies that really didn't do anything, to eliminate cities in some instances where the city kind of ceased to serve a governmental purpose. And so I think that we'll continue to fight fraud and waste in the state, and we'll start to look at local governments, start to look at universities, we'll start to look at smaller boards and make sure that we're not wasting anybody's taxpayer dollars. But in Florida, we've been doing that for 8 years. It's really been one of the great things that Governor DeSantis has led and our prior legislatures have led. But in Florida, we have gotten that right in the past. We will continue to get that right going forward.